UJT, unijunction transistor. Why we are studying this unijunction transistor? It's also one semiconductor device. In last topic we studied about the triggering circuit, that is R triggering circuit and RC triggering circuit. So through which we are going to trigger our SCR. So by using this UJT also we can trigger the SCR. This is one more method to trigger the SCR. So in order to study the UJT triggering circuit, we need to understand what is UJT. It's a 3-terminal semiconductor device. One is lightly doped N-type, which is lightly doped silicon slab, that is here, as you can see. So this one is the physical structure of UJT, where one is lightly doped. The lightly doped is a N region, as you can see in a green color, that is a lightly doped N region, and the two base contacts B1 and B2 are the both ends we have, that is the contacts. So this contacts creates a resistance, that is RB1 and RB2. So through this ohmic contacts we are getting a resistance. That resistance is represented as a RB1 at B1 terminal and RB2 which is at a B2 terminal. This one, RB1 and RB2, because of this ohmic contacts B1 and B2. So this N region is lightly doped, and here in a red color, that is a P region, which is heavily doped P region, which is alloyed to this N region. So this P region, where it is indicated in a red color, so that is a P region. You can see over here, this is a P region and the slab is N region. So the N region is lightly doped and a P region is heavily doped. So we know when a P and N regions are combined, we are going to get a P-N junction. P-N junction, which is nothing but a diode. So that's why it is represented by a diode. So what we can say, UJT is a semiconductor device. One is lightly doped N layer and one is P, which is heavily doped P region, which forms a emitter terminal. Two other ohmic contacts B1 and B2, which creates a ohmic contact resistance, which is nothing but RB1 and RB2. So this one is a equivalent circuit of a UJT. Again, the aluminum rod, we call this emitter terminal, that which is if it is closer to B2, this emitter, which is if it is closer to B2, then the value of RB2 is going to vary. If it is closer to B1, then the value of RB1 is going to vary. Based on the position of a emitter, that is a heavily doped P region, the value of a resistance, that is RB1 and RB2, is going to vary. So this is the physical structure of a UJT, where it consists of a 3-terminal emitter B1 and B2. So 3-terminal device. So the model number is given over here. Equivalent circuit. The equivalent circuit comprised of a 2 resistor RB1 and RB2 and a single diode VD drop across it. So the symbol of UJT is this one. The base B1, B2. Why we are getting these 2 terminal? That is the ohmic contacts. So B1 and B2, which will be present in this N region. So this is a lightly doped N region, B1 terminal, B2 terminal, and this is a heavily doped P region, which forms a emitter terminal. So as here P region is there, N region is there, we call this as a P-N junction. So this P-N junction is represented by the diode. This is an equivalent circuit. And B2, because of this ohmic contacts, we are getting a resistance RB2, that is represented over here RB2, and this is RB1. Emitter terminal B1 and B2. So here you can see the emitter is closer to B2 compared to B1. So the value of a resistor which is closer to VB2, that is the value of resistor RB1 is greater than RB2. This RB1 is greater compared to the RB2 resistor because this emitter is closer to B2. So the position of emitter plays an important role in the value of RB1 and RB2. So this is about the equivalent circuit of a UJT. Now when emitter is not connected, when emitter is not conducting, then resistance between two bases B1 and B2 is called as a RBP. So here you can see, when we say the emitter is not conducting, when the diode, when it is in reverse bias in the sense we say it as an open circuit. When this emitter diode is in off state, the resistance which is available at this point, that is B1 to B2, that is B1 to B2, so that resistance we call it as a RBB. So that resistance RBB, that is a interbase resistance, that is the sum of RB1 plus RB2, that you can see over here. So when the diode is not conducting, the interbase resistance between the point B1 and B2, from here to here, that resistance we call it as a RBB, which is sum of RB1 plus RB2. Here the RBB at condition when emitter is not conducting, that's why I is equals to 0. The value of this RBB range from 4 kilo ohm to 10 kilo ohm. The value of this RBB between the two ohmic contacts, that value vary from 4 kilo ohm to 10 kilo ohm. The position of aluminum rod determine the relative values of RB1 and RB2. So here the emitter rod, we say it as a emitter rod. So when emitter is closer to B2, then RB1 value is larger. When emitter is closer to B1, RB2 value is higher compared to RB1. So here the position will determine the value of RB1 and RB2. Now we study the function of a UJT. So here in order to study the function of a UJT, that is explained with the VI characteristics of UJT. See, this is the circuit diagram of a UJT, where when an emitter terminal is open, so as you can see, this is our UJT. Here it is a emitter terminal, and this is a B2 terminal, and this one is a B1 terminal. So this always, the B2 terminal as well as the emitter terminal is always connected, which is always forward bias which is always at a positive potential. So this B2 terminal is always connected to the positive terminal, and this emitter terminal which is always connected to the positive of the supply in always case, and the B1 terminal, so here which is always connected to the ground as a reference. With respect to this reference only, we will be calculating the VBB, VE as well as this VRB1. Here VRB1 is nothing but the voltage across the RB1. Along with that, there is an arrow mark is mentioned over RB1, that indicates it's a variable resistance, and RB2 is a fixed resistance. So this is the RB2 and RB1 and the diode which forms the UJT. So the same thing is connected to the emitter. Here it is connected to the ground, and this is connected to the positive terminal. So this is about the circuit, and here VD is nothing but a drop across the diode, and the current which is flowing in this emitter terminal we call it as a IE. So this is about the circuit. So here to this emitter we are supplying the source, that is the emitter voltage, source voltage which is emitter voltage. So here one more source which is we are applying to the resistor RB1 and RB2. So that the source voltage we call it as a VBB. Here this VE is a variable voltage. I can vary this voltage, but VBB is a constant voltage. So this is about the circuit. Now we look into the operation of the UJT. When emitter terminal is open, VBB is applied between two bases. So what it says, the first point, when this emitter terminal is open, so when we are not supplying the VE, so the VBB is applied between these two terminal, base 1 and base 2, so through which we are applying. Then voltage drop across RB1. So when I apply voltage, the current will be flowing in the circuit. That is, through RB1 is also current is flowing, and through RB2 is also current is flowing. When current flows through this particular circuit, what happens? A drop is going to occur across the RB1. Here the drop will takes place. So this drop VRB1, this drop VRB1, it will do? The voltage drop across RB1 is obtained by using potential divider rule. So this drop, what will it do? It will reverse bias this diode. Because of this polarity, the VRB1, the drop across this RB1, what it will do? It will reverse bias the diode. So what is the value of this VRB1? So VRB1, so when you look at this particular circuit, what you can see? So this, the voltage across this VRB1, we can obtain this by voltage divider rule. So VRB1 is nothing but what? RB1, the resistance at this branch, the supply voltage divided by sum of resistance, that is RB1 plus RB2. That is by voltage division rule. So I can represent RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 by eta, where eta is nothing but a, where you can see the efficiency symbol, no, that is nothing but a eta. So this eta is nothing but a intrinsic standoff ratio. So this eta is there, no, this eta we call it as a intrinsic standoff ratio. The value of this eta range from 0.5 to 0.8. So if I simplify VRB1, I can represent RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 as a eta, where eta is nothing but a intrinsic standoff ratio. So now what I can say, the voltage which is available across the RB1 is nothing but a eta into VBB. Till here it is clear, no? So what we are doing at starting? So we are not supplying a VE when this VE is open circuited. So what happens? We are supplying the voltage from VBB. So when a voltage is supplied between the base terminal B1 and B2, the current will flow in this particular circuit. Because of this current, the drop will occur across this RB1 resistor. That drop is obtained by this voltage divider rule. So through this voltage divider rule, if I simplify that one, VRB1, this drop is nothing but a eta times the supply voltage VBB. So what it will do? The VRB1 drop, this drop will reverse bias this particular diode. So reverse bias in the sense the current I is 0. That's why the condition is mentioned over here. So this voltage is reverse biasing the diode, that why IE current is 0. So that eta, that is nothing but a, here we represent this eta by a RB1 by RB1 plus RB2. That is the intrinsic standoff ratio, that is given over here. RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 can be written as a eta, that is standoff ratio, intrinsic standoff ratio. Now for a VE, suppose if my supply voltage, this one which we are supplying to the emitter, so this, if this emitter voltage, if this emitter voltage VE is greater than this one, if this emitter voltage is greater compared to VRB1, so what it will say? My anode side of the diode voltage is greater than cathode side of the diode, no? Then what it will happen? It will forward bias the diode. That diode will fire and the current IE will starts to flow in the circuit. And along with this, there is one drop, VD drop. So when VE is greater than VRB1 plus this drop, what it will do? The current, it will forward bias the diode. See, if we consider any semiconductor device, there will be a threshold voltage. So if we supply that threshold voltage, then only it will starts to conduct. So if my VE voltage, if it is greater than VRB1 plus the drop, that is a threshold drop of the diode, then it will starts to conduct, then only the current will starts to flow in the circuit, that is IE current. Clear no? So this VD drop will usually range from 0.35 to zero point 0.7. That depends upon the type of material and the manufacturer, how he prepares and how he set the threshold voltage. And IE current starts to flow now. So now, in order to turn on UJT, so what I can say now, emitter current starts to flow in a particular circuit now. So the emitter firing potential, so that VE, I call this as a VP. When my VE reaches to the value of a VP, then only UJT will turn on. So that is given by this equation. VP is nothing but a voltage that is required to turn on the UJT. This is the voltage which is required to turn on my UJT. So this VRB1 can be given by eta into VBB that we studied in the last slide. VRB1 can be written as a eta into VBB, no? The same thing. So in order to turn on the UJT, the emitter voltage should be equal to the VP voltage. So this VP voltage is nothing but a drop across this one, VRB1, that is nothing but an eta into VBB plus that drop across the diode. Then only UJT will trigger. So this is the condition to turn on the UJT. Now we study the characteristics of UJT. As you can see over here, we are drawing the UJT characteristics with respect to the emitter current and emitter voltage. Here, emitter plays an important role in UJT compared to base 1 and base 2. Emitter plays an important role. So for that reason, if you want to turn on the UJT, means I need to provide the emitter voltage which is equals to VP, then only it will starts to conduct. So emitter, with respect to emitter only, we need to draw the VI characteristics. So here VE is nothing but the emitter voltage that you can see on the Y axis, VE emitter voltage, and the emitter current, the current which is flowing in the emitter terminal. So that is nothing but this one, emitter voltage, and the current which is flowing in the particular emitter terminal. Now, so there are three regions of operation of this particular UJT. The first region we call it as a cutoff region, and second one is a negative resistance region, and third one is a saturation region. So three region of operation. Now we understood, we know that in order to turn on the UJT, the voltage, emitter voltage should reach to VP. So that is represented over here. So this is the VP. So if I keep on increasing the voltage, emitter voltage, so in this graph, if you see, this is the positive voltage. If I show over here as well as here, that emitter voltage is a positive. That's in the first and as well as in second quadrant. If I show this V over here as well as here, that indicates the emitter is a positive voltage. But if I show the current over here, in this quadrant, if I show the current over here, in this over here, and as well as over here, if I show the current, means it's a reverse current, and this one is a positive current and negative current. But the voltage here also it is positive, here also it is positive. That is a basic, in order to draw the graph, you should know that one. If I keep on increasing the voltage, that is, if I apply the positive voltage, the current at this point, if this is the voltage which I am increasing to that particular circuit. So now what happens, that I told you VBB in the circuit, in this particular circuit, VBB that you can see over here, this is a VBB voltage that we are supplying, that is a VBB. At beginning, I told you that VBB is a constant. So if I turn on this one, means the entire supply voltage, that is VBB, will be available at the base terminal B1 and B2. So but VE is a variable. If I keep on increasing this VE, what happens? I need to reach till VP. then only it will turn on. So that is the first condition. So till I reach my VP, UJT is not at all turned on. So if a UJT is not at all turned on means because of the drop across the resistor, that is this resistor, because of RB1, that is VRB1, that will reverse bias the diode. Because of this drop, my diode is reverse bias because VE not at all reached to VP value. So until it reached to a value of a VP, this diode is in reverse bias. The current which is flowing until I reach the value of VP, that is the reverse current. That's why it is the reverse emitter current which is flowing in the diode. That is a reverse current which is flowing until I reach the value of VP. So if I reach up to here, that is if I reach the value of VP, that you can see over here, when I reach the value of a VP, what is the condition to turn on the UJT? That emitter voltage VE should reach to a value of VP, where VP is nothing but a VRB1 drop plus VD drop. If I cross that one, then what it will do? The current will start to flow in a positive direction. That is, diode is forward biased now. Now the current will flow in positive way. So the emitter current now is flowing in the positive side. So till here it was in a negative side. So but at this point what happens? We are supplying the positive voltage. Now current will come to the positive region. But that current is very little current. So only this much amount of a current is flowing. So that is a peak point to start the UJT. So till here, so till my diode reach the cutoff region, that is till my diode reach the voltage of a VP, that is the emitter voltage reach the value of a VP, that region we call it as a cutoff region. So that is one region. Now come to the negative region. In negative region what happens? The emitter voltage become equals to the VP. So from that point, so here to till here, so we call it as a negative resistance region. So in this negative resistance region, what is happening? If I further increase the emitter voltage, what happens? It is decreasing. The emitter voltage is decreasing and current is increasing rapidly. Here in this region what is happening? The emitter voltage is decreasing and emitter current is increasing. Why this is happening? If you look at the structure of the PNN junction, here when this is forward bias, the holes which are present over here starts to accumulate in the N region. When it is forward bias now. Now what is happening? The holes are injected to the particular N. This one is heavily doped. Initially I told you the P region is heavily doped and N region is lightly doped. Now the diode is forward bias. Because of that forward bias, that is forward in the sense we are connecting to the positive terminal. So like this, because of this polarity, they get moved towards the N layer. So now holes are getting accumulated in this particular region. So what they will do? Some holes will recombine with the N electrons and rest of all get accumulated in this particular region. Because of that, the resistance which is present over here, that is RB1, will decrease. That's why it's a variable resistance. Because of this process, we mentioned it as a variable resistance. Now the resistance decreases and current will start to flow rapidly. That you can see over here in the graph. Negative resistance region. Negative resistance region is a sense the RB1 value is decreased now. Because of that resistance decrease, the current is increasing, and if I further increase the voltage, that voltage will reduce now. That voltage will reduce up to the valley point. My emitter current is increasing rapidly. So that region we call it as a negative resistance region. If I further keep on increasing the voltage, what it will reach to the saturation point. Current will increase rapidly. It's like a on condition. Saturation region, we call it as a increase in IE further, that is after valley point, it drives the device in saturation region and behaves like a conventional forward biased PN junction, that is saturation region. So three region of operation, that is from emitter zero voltage. If I keep on increasing the emitter voltage until I reach the value of a P point, device is not at all turned on, that is cut off region. So at this point what happens, the device will turn on. When the device turn on, what happens, the resistance decreases. Why resistance is decreasing? The holes are injected to the lightly doped N region, so that electron hole will recombine and they increase the emitter current. So if I keep on increasing this emitter current, the further increase in emitter current will not affect much in the emitter voltage. So that point we call it as a saturation point. Here this valley point plays an important role. If the voltage decrease below this valley point, then UJT will turn off. This is about the VI characteristics of UJT. So the three region that is explained over here, go through this theory. So this is about the UJT structure, symbol, and the operation of a UJT and VI characteristic. Now there are many applications of UJT, but the major one application of a UJT is UJT relaxation oscillator. That is, we can use this UJT to turn on the SCR. So how we can use my UJT to turn on this SCR is by modifying the circuit a little bit by adding R and C resistor. So here this circuit, if you refer this circuit, this is the UJT circuit. This is about the UJT. The added resistor along with this RB1 we have that, but that is not shown over here. RB2 we have over here, that is also not shown over in this circuit. The basic circuit I am telling, this if this symbol is given over here means that is a UJT symbol, where this symbol consists of one diode over here as well as a resistance is there, RB1 over here and RB2 over here. That is nothing but a symbol of the UJT. So these resistors are also present over here. Along with that, we are adding two more resistors, that is R1 resistance is added over there and R2 resistance is added over the terminal B1, and along with that a capacitor is also added. I am modifying the circuit by adding extra components in order to make this UJT as a relaxation oscillator. So those oscillations are used, those pulses are used to turn on the SCR. So this is about the UJT, relaxation oscillator circuit. Now the operation, how it is going to produce the oscillation, that oscillation we can apply it to the SCR. The operation. Now assume that initially the capacitor voltage, that is the voltage which is available at the capacitor, VC is 0. Initially the VC is 0. When the supply voltage VBB is first applied, the UJT is in its off state. Why UJT is in its off state? Because VE is not reached to the value of VP, then only UJT will turn on. The condition to turn on UJT is my emitter voltage should reach to the value of VP, then only it will turn on. So when I switch on my VBB, UJT is still at off condition. The UJT is at off state. IE is also 0. When IE will flow? The IE will flow only when UJT is in on state. So IE is also 0. And capacitor, because of the supply voltage, the capacitor will start to charge through this resistor R1. So through this resistor, the capacitor is charging. through this resistor R2, the capacitor is discharging. So here why we are using the resistor R1? To charge this capacitor. So now the capacitor will start to charging in the sense it will start to accumulate the charge charges on its plates. That is the first case. This is the direction that is shown over here. Now it will start to accumulate the charges. Now when the supply voltage VC, that is when the supply voltage VC equals to VE reaches the firing potential VP, the UJT fires and capacitor discharge exponentially through R2 until VE reaches the value point V. What it says? At start, what happens? The capacitor will charge up to the maximum value. So when it starts to charge, we have if this is my VP value, that is a condition to turn on the UJT. So this is a value peak point. So now at beginning, what I told, the capacitor will start to charge through this resistor R1. So this is the charging point of the capacitor when it reached the value of VP. So when it reached the value of VP, what it says, now at this point the voltage available at this point is VP. So now condition to turn on the UJT is satisfied. So at this point what happens? The UJT is fired on. Fired in the sense it is get triggered. So now at this point, when the capacitor voltage reach to the value of VP, the UJT will turn on. So when UJT turn on, what it will do? It will discharge through this resistor R2. So when the capacitor is discharging in the sense, so like this it will discharge. So there is one more voltage, that is VV voltage, value voltage. When the capacitor discharge and reach to the value of a VV, then UJT will turn off. So this is the point where my UJT is turned on. So this acts like a pulse. So this is the point, this is the period that UJT is turned on. Once again I will repeat. At beginning, what we are giving, the VB, when I supply the VB voltage, the capacitor will starts to charge. So this is the charging waveform of the capacitor. When it reaches the value of VP, what happens? The condition to turn on the UJT is satisfied now. It reached to that voltage. So now what it will do? The capacitor will discharge through resistor R2, that is given in the blue color line. Now it will start to discharge. Discharge in the sense the capacitor voltage is decreasing now. So here my UJT is in on state, but when it starts to discharge through the resistor R2, what happens? The voltage is decreasing now. So but there is one point, value point. So if that voltage reach below that value point, again the same thing, the UJT will turn off. Again when it is off, the same cycle will continue. Again it will start to charge and discharge. During discharging time, the UJT will turn on. The waveform you can see here. When VE reaches to the value point V, that is the value point, the UJT will turn off. IE goes to 0 and the capacitor is discharged. This process repeats itself to produce the waveform of VC and VR2. Here VR2 is nothing but a discharging of capacitor voltage. Here through this resistor we are discharging. That is discharging voltage VR2, and a VC is the charging voltage of capacitor. That you can see over here, how the capacitor will charge and how capacitor will discharge. So this is the charging of capacitor through resistor R1. That's why the tau, which is given by R1 into C, that is a time constant of capacitor to charge, that depends upon the value of R1. If I vary the value of R1, then capacitor may charge at this time only. So that time can be varied by selecting the proper value of R1 and R2. Here By varying the value of R1, I can vary the charging time. By varying the value of R2, I can vary the discharging time. So when it reached the value of a Vp, at this point UJT will turn on. This is the discharging of capacitor through resistor R2. I told you in the beginning, RB1 is not shown in the circuit. RB1 is nothing but that is a UJT resistance itself. RB1 in the basic structure I have shown you. RB1 plus R2. Here we have RB1. So now capacitor is discharging through this RB1 plus RB2. For simplicity, it is not shown in the circuit. The symbol, if it is symbol is shown, means that RB1, RB2 and diode is present in that symbol itself. So this is in this period the device is off. In this period the device is on. This is the valley voltage that you can see, the valley voltage. How we can now this triggering pulses. So whatever the pulse where the UJT is on, if I supply this triggering pulses to SCR, then SCR will trigger, SCR will turn on. So now I can vary this triggering pulses by varying the value of R1 and R2. So if I vary the value of this R1, I can vary the charging time period of capacitor. If I vary the value of R2, then discharging time will vary. If discharging and charging, if it varies, means that pulses which is produced, that on period of UJT will also vary. So if the on period vary, means I can vary the turn on as well as turn off time of SCR. This is how we can use our SCR UJT to turn on our SCR. Now, how we can calculate the frequency, that is, in order to calculate the frequency of this particular waveform, first we need to calculate the period of one cycle. If I want to calculate the frequency of this particular waveform, that is, this is one cycle. So that is time period we need to calculate. So time period, which is given by T is equals to R1 into C ln of 1 by 1 minus eta, where eta is nothing but a standoff ratio, intrinsic standoff ratio. Then frequency we can calculate, that is nothing but a inverse of time period. Then we can calculate the frequency of that particular waveform. So this is about UJT can be used as a relaxation oscillator to turn on SCR.